My name's Zach, and I'm here today to tell my story about how I went from $0 in sales to over $7 million in sales on Amazon FBA. And the purpose for me telling this story is to start my YouTube journey, bring the content out there, tell my story, and maybe it'll resonate with someone out there. Go through all the trials and tribulations about how we started in parents' basement, and now I'm standing on a loft in our 15,000 square foot warehouse where we process all of our inventory. So I wanted to go into great detail about how that all took place, and hopefully you like it. Thanks.
So if you don't know by now, my name is Zach Lucky. I'm 28 years old, born and raised in a small city west of Boston, Massachusetts, called Leominster, Massachusetts. I lived there my whole life with my mom, dad, and little sister Gracie, and graduated Leominster High School in 2015 with the sole intentions of joining the Navy. I was enlisted in the Navy at the time. I had always really wanted to kind of serve my country to some capacity, and I was also blessed to have the opportunity to work for my dad at a company that he worked for. And I learned a ton about machining, molding, the injection molding of parts, how to use SolidWorks, the design, AutoCAD, a bunch of different things I'd learned there. So that kind of steered me in a different direction also. So I had the drive and the want to serve my country, and also the inspiring, intuitive kind of engineer brain in my head. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I was kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place, and the Navy wasn't really giving me what I wanted. I wanted to be this crazy Navy SEAL guy, and I wanted a shot at it, but I couldn't really swim that fast because those guys swim a ton. So squashed the Navy thing, and I was like, I'm just gonna go to a smaller college close to home, live at home, and work for my dad. So that's what I did for like a year. But I still really wanted something more out of my life, and I wasn't really sure what that was, but I knew I needed to pivot and do something a little different. So instead of going to college part-time and working for my father, I decided to take a leap and kind of go to a different college a little bit further away from home, and at the University of New Hampshire, which is kind of near where I live now. So about a year after the Fitchburg State and working for my dad, I moved out, went to the University of New Hampshire for a semester, and took on a bunch of student loans. And that's like 40 grand for one semester at this college. So maybe not the smartest move in the world, but definitely learned a lot. And those student loans are now since gone, but definitely a good thing to bring up because that is what drove my next decision to fulfill that need/want that I had to serve my country in a different capacity. So I had ended up talking to a Army National Guard recruiter at the University of New Hampshire, and he was like, hey, like we have this thing, tuition waiver, we can hook you up, get you all set up with, limited fees and tuition, but you got to, join the National Guard. So after 2 months talking to him, I said, you know what? Yes, sir. Sign in the dotted line, and I'm going to go to basic training. So now we're in about January of 2017, which is almost 9 years ago now, which is kind of nuts, but time flies when you're having fun. So January 2017, packed up a couple duffel bags and went down to Atlanta, Georgia, where I went to Fort Benning for like 4 months to join the National Guard and go to basic training and all that fun stuff. Fast forward 5-6 months after that, I had my summer break-ish and went back to college to then pursue my goal of actually becoming an Army officer and a mechanical engineer. Joining back at UNH, joined the ROTC program, and really worked hard for a couple semesters to get into the mechanical engineering program. And the whole goal behind this was to become a officer in the Army National Guard. Which state that was going to be solely dependent on kind of where I wanted to live, and become a mechanical engineer to work with my dad and for my dad at his company. Fast forward to the year 2021, I had graduated with my degree in mechanical engineering and also commissioned into the Army as an infantry officer for the state of Rhode Island. This was also kind of like during the COVID time, so things were a little weird and people were still like really working from home or doing stuff remote. And, the world was kind of still flipped upside down and then flipped back, and all the pieces were still falling back together. So I went and worked for my dad as a design engineer, doing a lot of SolidWorks and stuff like that for him. And I had a 9-month adventure that I had to go back down to Fort Benning, Georgia to do the Army training that's required of you as an officer when you commission into the National Guard. So I was working for my dad for a few months, but I knew I had like a 9-month break that I needed to, not break, but I had to go and do some other training. And that 9 months spent down there in Georgia is kind of the key pivot moment of like me really learning about like a lot of people in the Army and just like how the Army mindset does kind of like train you to be like a little bit of an entrepreneur. It depends on how you take it. It's like really rule following, but until you can realize that you actually can like make some rules as you go along as well and kind of build your own path is a better way to describe it. So once I finished working for my dad for like 6 months and then going to do my Army adventure for 9 months, I'd come back and started working for my father again, doing the same thing, design engineer. And I really, really wanted something more still. I knew that there was something more than sitting behind a desk and doing more or less kind of like the same thing every single day. I knew there was something more, and I was looking for paths, like trying to do crypto, day trading, drop shipping, all this crazy stuff. And then I eventually found Flips for Miles, who, if you don't follow him, great guy, absolute homie. And he does Amazon online arbitrage. And that's kind of like a method of you just buying items online, getting them delivered to your house, and then reselling them on the Amazon platform. So now that my kind of like pre-Amazon story is told, kind of like graduating high school to starting Amazon, which it's like a 6-year gap, but got most of it covered there. Joined the Army, got my mechanical engineering degree, got everything that I wanted really when I started college and still wanted more. That's the point, I guess, behind it. September of 2022, I started my business and opened up my Amazon account and got going with Amazon Online Arbitrage, thanks to the FBA roadmap done by Flips for Miles and Fields of Profit, Warner Fields. So shout out to those two guys, absolute legends, got me started off on the right foot. And also shout out to my longtime best friend, like going on like almost 2 decades now, Nate. He really hooked it up. It was in September that I started my Amazon journey, and like in July he'd started his, and we had went golfing randomly, and he was just like, what have you been up to? Like, how's it going? I'm like, yeah, dude, just working, hanging out. Just got back from this Army thing. Like, don't really feel like doing much. And he's like, you know what, dude? Like, I'm starting to sell Nike socks on Amazon. And we're on like the 4th hole, like a couple beers in. And I looked over at him. I'm like, you're selling Nike socks on Amazon? And he's like, yeah. We're going to make like 10 grand a month doing this. And I was like, yeah, right, man. And I just like laughed him off. And then he had sent me some YouTube videos on how to do it. And I kind of looked into it, not really that interested, but I still knew deep down that I wanted something more. So through him kind of pushing me over the edge on like jump starting this thing, by the time he had showed me his August profit and loss statement and he had made like 2 or 3 grand profit from his business, I was like, man, an extra 2 or 3 grand would really go a long way right now. Had a lot of student loans to pay off, was still living at home with mom and dad, and really wanted to, better my life and get like a head start kind of thing. I've always wanted to do that. So back to the journey. I'm still working my 9 to 5. Every single day I get home by like 6 o'clock and I would just be scavenging the internet for items to buy to resell on Amazon. And then I'd buy those items on business credit cards and with the little cash that I had from my 9 to 5 and put this whole business together pretty much in my parents' basement. Like I would go to Lowe's, Walmart every week and buy like the moving boxes to ship items into Amazon FBA. Yeah, pretty much like every night of the week there'd be an array of packages on my parents' front porch. So between those boxes and everything showing up, it was kind of like a real gut check for, I guess, my mom, because she really didn't know what the hell was going on. And I don't blame her either to any degree. Like if you like tell your mom you're starting a business and then all of a sudden you have like 45 Adidas shoes or On shoes like sitting on the front porch in the broad daylight on a Wednesday, it's like, what the heck is my son doing here? So it took a little bit of convincing, but I've kind of got her support throughout the years, obviously. Shout out to all that kind of stuff right there. The family support is absolutely crucial. The girlfriend support is crucial because when you're first starting to kind of do something that's like out of the ordinary, It's like you definitely need everyone's support around you. If you didn't have that, you would probably quit. And I said that to Nate, the guy who got me started, my best friend for almost 20 years now. Well, I say almost 20 years, but it's like 15, whatever. Yeah, if it's not for those people that kind of help you out along the way, then you really don't stand a chance unless you're just really that driven in your own head. There are some people out there, but anyways, back to the Amazon story. So every night, 6 p.m. to midnight, in between working the 9 to 5, I'm looking for products. Christmas time's approaching. We find some absolute great electronic deals and products that we were importing from the European Union into the United States to then resell to American marketplaces. This had quite literally changed my life because from the month of October to the month of January, I had made like over $50,000 to my bank account from selling these products along with a handful of other products, but these products were the prime revenue generator. That changing of your life, like making 50 grand over the course of 2 months, like I paid off, I had like 45 grand left in my student loans. I paid all those off. I just knew and felt like the potential was so there to really grow and like do this as like a full-time business. So from January to March, I had some pretty decent conversations, like decently tough conversations with my dad, but I was just like, I know that this seems crazy, but I want to leave working for you and do this on my own. And I know it's, kind of very like not by the book, not what we've been talking about me doing for the past, 5 to 10 years. It's a little crazy, but I really think it's worth a shot. So he was like, you know what, you really don't have anything to lose. It seems like you're already making some good money from it. So yeah, screw it. Go ahead, try it out. See if you can make it last and do your thing. And I wish you the best of luck. And I'm here to come back if you need it. So having that also is so huge. Like just knowing that like, okay, if this all goes to shit and I fail miserably, boom, like I can, like, it's like a trust fall type thing. Like, that the person's going to catch you for the most part. And so now we're in March of 2023 and I had left my 9 to 5. So my student loans have been paid off. I had left my 9 to 5. And in April of 2023, Nate and myself went and looked at like a 3,000 square foot warehouse space, like 20 minutes from both of our houses. So we now had like an office to work in and a warehouse to warehouse and package all of our own items. So we would save money and not have to use like a prep center and stuff like that. We spent about a year in that warehouse and it really helped us grow. Like we started off and the place was empty. And by the time the year ended, the year of us occupying that place, it ended, like we had that thing packed to the gills. You could hardly even walk through it. So we had then moved to a new warehouse in Newmarket, New Hampshire. We had also had to like move our whole lives for this because it was no longer 20 minutes away from our parents' house. It was about an hour and 20 minutes away. So it kind of forced us to move out and do our own thing, start rent an apartment, do all the, necessary things to kind of get going in life. And that's the warehouse that you've seen in the beginning of the video. And since then, have continued to grow our Amazon businesses, opened a retail store. So we have a brick and mortar hardware and power tool store along with the warehouse itself. And yeah, the goal is to just keep growing. But that's my $0 to $7 million story. And I hope you've really found this interesting. And if so, follow along. You get a lot more informational content when it comes to the Amazon side of things. Going to be dropping some sauce and looking to help people get started and change their own lives, as you hear in the past, 10, 12 minutes, to like how I've changed my life. So yeah, thank you very much and follow for more.